Okay, so let's get right into it. You've probably seen this thing everywhere, the Rabbit R1. It's this bright orange AI gadget that just exploded onto the scene, raising tens of millions of dollars from investors, with a huge promise to completely change how we interact with technology. It's supposed to be your little AI buddy for, well, every.
So at the launch event, the founder, Jesse Liu, he paints this incredible picture, right? With just your voice, the R1 can get you an Uber, order you some food, or even plan out a whole trip to another country. The promise was absolutely massive, a device that does it all, that finally frees us from our phones and all their apps. The hype was, let's be honest, pretty infectious.
But you know how it goes in the tech world. Big promises are one thing, but how the thing actually performs, that's a whole other story. So after all the flashy presentations and the viral videos, the R1 started shipping, and the tech reviewers were ready.
And the reviews were rough. Yeah, that's putting it mildly. Reviewers pretty much everywhere found that the R1 couldn't really do the basic things it was advertised to do. Order a ride? Nope, couldn't process it. A lot of the core features that were promised just didn't work right out of the box.
Look, a buggy version 1.0 product isn't exactly shocking. It happens all the time. But what if I told you that the R1's rocky start isn't even the most fascinating part of this whole thing? What if there's a much deeper story here? Let's go down this rabbit hole, shall we?
To really get what's happening with Rabbit today, we have to look at its past. See, the company that makes the R1 is called Rabbit Inc., but that's not what they've always been called. And it turns out that name change is kind of a big deal. So check out this timeline. Back in 2021, the company was called Cyber Manufacture Co., and they raised a cool $6 million for a project named Gamma. Then, suddenly, in late 2023, just 2 months before they announced the R1, they quietly changed their name to Rabbit Inc. That's a really fast pivot.
And this slide just lays out the pivot perfectly. On one side, you have Rabbit Inc., an AI hardware company whose founder now says, and I quote, "We will never touch crypto. Never." But on the other side, you have their past life as Cyber Manufacture Co., a full-on Web3 company whose big project, Gamma, was all about NFTs and crypto. So what was that all about?
Okay, let's talk about Gamma. If you ask the founder about it today, he tells a very specific, very casual story.
He describes it as just a fun little project, something he was messing around with during the pandemic, said he built a game, released some NFTs, and then just moved on. Sounds like a side hustle, right? A pretty casual way to describe a multi-million-dollar venture-backed company. But that's not exactly how he was pitching it back in 2021. And here's the contrast. Back then, it was the complete opposite of a fun little project. He was telling everyone this was a legit team with millions of dollars of fundings and that they were dumping millions into building a next-level experience. He went out of his way to say it wasn't just some quick NFT cash grab.
And when he said next level, he wasn't joking around. He claimed the NFTs were only about 20% of the entire vision for Gamma. The other 80% was, well, it was a lot.
I mean, just listen to this list. They promised a whole Gammaverse, a new Bitcoin 2.0 crypto coin that would somehow be carbon negative, a real-world clean energy grid that NFT holders would co-own, a comic book, a TV show, a massive online video game, and my personal favorite, an AI interface you could control with your brain logic. He even compared it to the Matrix. It was just every tech buzzword you can think of all thrown into one project.
Okay, so those were the promises. Unbelievable, world-changing stuff. But what about the reality? For the investors and the community who actually bought in, what did they end up getting?
Let's just focus on one of the biggest, most concrete promises they made, the GMA token. This was supposed to be their carbon-negative Bitcoin 2.0. This wasn't just a minor detail. It was a huge part of the project's entire sales pitch. So this is the official statement from the Rabbit team today. They claim the coin was never even promised. They are flat out denying that this core feature was ever part of the plan to begin with. But here's the thing. You don't have to take my word for it. You don't have to take their current word for it. You just have to look at the promotional materials they put out back then. This is a direct quote from their own roadmap video. I mean, it couldn't be any clearer. Ultimately, our efforts will lead to the GMA token, the first ever carbon-negative cryptocurrency. That's not ambiguous. It's a direct promise, in writing, in their own video, which they now claim they never made. And the contradictions just keep coming. It's not just about denying specific promises. Now the team is trying to completely cut the ties between their past and their present. They actually put out a document called the Gamma Project Fact Sheet, and in it they state that Gamma has no connection with Rabbit. I mean, really?
It's the same company, same founder, and the same venture capital money. You can't just declare that your own history doesn't exist.
And yeah, let's not forget about that funding. That $6 million was raised specifically for Gamma. So if Gamma has no connection to Rabbit, where did that money go? Did it just vanish? Or was it used to fund this new project, leaving all of Gamma's original investors in the dust?
So why does any of this matter if you're just thinking about buying a $200 AI gadget? Well, it matters because a company's history often shows you a pattern of behavior. It's really all about trust and credibility.
And this example just perfectly illustrates the point. Back in 2021, to calm fears that Gamma was a scam, Jesse Liu personally promised to buy back NFTs from anyone who felt misled. But now, when asked to honor that promise, the team says he will not be refunding investors and claims that his own quote was taken out of context. So when you put it all together, what you see is a pretty clear track record, right? A project that raised millions on these extraordinary promises that just never happened, left its early supporters with basically nothing, and is now actively trying to rewrite and deny its own history.
Which brings us all the way back to the Rabbit R1. When you look at this device today with its own grand promises and its currently non-functional reality, you have to ask a really important question. Is this just the normal growing pains of a new product that's going to get better? Or is this a pattern of behavior that we've seen from this team before? That is for you to decide.